I adore these characters in Vinland Saga, whether it be Thorfinn and just his drive to basically kill the one who killed his father, but wants to do it honorably in a duel. You have Askeladd, who is just such a complex character, who is both a scumbag, but also someone you kind of want to walk side by side with, even though he does some pretty questionable things. You have Ylva just trying to be brave and not show emotion, but needing that mother's shoulder to cry on. The characters, the dynamic, just what they're doing with this story. I am so adoring this show. I actually was figuring that maybe we'd get a time skip at this episode, that they would just kind of ignore him being on the boat, and then maybe we'd see a flashback, something like that. But I'm really happy to see that we got another episode dedicated to young Thorfinn, and I do expect after this episode we will get a flash forward, because there's no way we're going to watch Thorfinn kind of climb his way up into being a powerful soldier as a teenager or young adult. I don't think that's going to happen. But to see him in this stage and how he clung to life because he does have the troll's blood within him, I thought was really well done. There's so many stories that take the young kid or the young teenager who's full of rage and wants to kill the person who took someone close from him, and it comes across just like, kid, you're not gonna do this. And I think a big factor to the reason why I support Thorfinn so much in this situation is because we know who his father is. The one-man army, the troll, the one who could take out everyone, and we see how honorable and powerful he was. And of course, this isn't the path he wanted his son to take. That's not why he gave his life, but we also know what kind of a kid and man Thorfinn wants to be, and that rage was going to fuel him. But at the same time, I'm so thankful that he didn't go the route of just assassination, that he actually wanted to be honorable in a duel. So there is still some of his father living on within him, and the whole reason he survived is he has the blood of his father within him, and that's something that's going to let him cling to life to the very end. And I think that whole dynamic of just Askeladd and just Thorfinn is such an interesting dynamic that I don't even know what I want to compare it to. We have a leader of bandits and mercenaries who could easily just kill the kid, toss him overboard, do something, and just throw him away. But there's something so interesting about his just mentality. He's someone who's laid back, he doesn't want things to bother him, he'll easily kill, he'll allow his men to rape and pillage. In the time of Vikings, that's what they do. They don't glorify it, they don't romanticize it, they make sure you understand how brutal this time period is, and how they will burn down villages and take what they want because that's who they are. They take what they want because they have the power to do so. It's not something that's good, it's not something that's righteous, but there is something about his character that isn't just what you would typically see with a leader of a band of mercenaries such as this. He doesn't just kill this kid. He sees something within this kid, and at the same time, he thinks he's such a non-threat that it's like, he'll starve on the boat, he'll go thirsty, he'll do something. But every time he comes back, he doesn't kill him when he should. He knows he's about to assassinate him in his bed, but he doesn't do anything because he wants to see, is he going to swing the sword or is he going to walk away? He walked away. He challenges him to a duel, he doesn't actually use his sword, he just kicks him around, he beats the living shit out of him, but he doesn't kill the kid, he just doesn't want to kill this kid. There's something about Thorfinn that interests him, and I think that interest is what's so interesting because we have a kid whose entire goal is to win a fair duel against the person who took his father's life. And then we have a mercenary leader who is just so confused about this kid, but sees probably something special about him and wondering where that dynamic could go, because obviously they're going to have a duel at some point in time. But is Thorfinn's entire drive just going to be to train, win battles, and get that one and done duel? Or is this going to be a common thing? They keep having duels and he keeps losing until the point where he does win and he does take his life. And that's incredibly interesting. I like how it is such a disgusting setting that we're looking at. We have this band of mercenaries grabbing women and children, burning down the buildings. The time of Vikings, as you would see. It's stealing. It's just all the horrible things from this time period. But when you do get to see their personalities, because they are a part of this time period, and that's just what kind of happened within this time period, when you actually do get to see them a bit more just when they're not doing these vile acts, it's actually interesting how their characters are explored, such as the person who took Thorfinn hostage and thought he was just going to be a brute, but he recognizes just how powerful his father was, and he actually seems like someone I'd be interested in learning about on a personal level. He just doesn't come across as he did on the battlefield, and that's super interesting. But I think Askeladd is definitely going to be my favorite character. I mean, obviously this is going to be a cast with a lot of characters, sure. So there's probably going to be quite a few favorite characters for me, and I think Thorfinn could definitely join up that ranking of some of my favorites. But there's something about Askeladd who is just so mysterious. He always has something up his sleeve, but he also feels sort of lazy. But even when he's seemingly acting lazy, he still could get the job done when it counts. I think because he had such a level of respect for Thorfinn's father, asking him to join as their leader, which I still firmly believe if he would have said yes, he would have accepted, because there was a power there that would have been of great use to them. But it's interesting how his son, even though he's so weak, he's so pathetic and nothing at this point, he still has something that really does resemble his father, and I think that's the big reason he just kicks him around and not stabs him, because this is someone who could really become someone as powerful as his father in the future, as seen by how he did hang on to life with no assistance. And I'm glad they didn't actually assist him. I thought they would have gave him food and water, things like that. No, they literally let him starve and just thirst. And I really enjoyed the detail to that. You can see his lips just shriveled up, cracked. You can see him grasping for air because he is so thirsty, so hungry. The desperation of trying to drink salt water, which a lot of people do when they have no water, and then they immediately regret it because you can't drink it. To then just him by the creek actually finally getting water, his desperation in trying to eat mushrooms or hunting, and then having to eat just the little bits of meat off of their bones once they're done their dinner. You really felt like with Studio, they did something a lot of anime wouldn't do. They truly made us feel like we were watching a real person who was about to die, who didn't have water and food for days, and the way they detailed it, just the exhaustion under his eyes, the thirst from his mouth and his lips, it really felt like there was a realistic detail there that you don't get to see with anime. I don't actually recall the last time I've seen an anime where a character was starving or hadn't had water for quite some time. And I was like, that actually feels like we're watching a live action movie or television series where it feels like that's absolutely how they would detail it to make us feel like it's a real person. Of course, it's still a drawing at the end of the day, so there is some level of fantasy there that, of course, is not a real person. But I think for being a drawing, the way they detailed these realistic details, it actually made me buy into Thorfinn's a real kid who is on the verge of death, and just that desperation to cling on to was exceptionally remarkable. Ylva, though, was a complete surprise. I wasn't sure what would happen when the bones or just the chest with his weapons would be returned home, and the reaction of just, I never thought he'd live a long life, that's just who he is, well, we got work to do. The mother, I could understand, because the mother of strong Tors, I could understand not crying in front of people, things like that. But the daughter was a curveball. I was really interested in the direction they were going to go, because they could easily just make her not care, be not that emotional, or someone who was trying to put on the tough act. And I was actually happy to see she was putting on the tough act. She was incredibly strong, she was picking up all the chores and labor that basically she was left with, but I like how in the midst of trying to be strong, she just kept wanting to work, because it's something I can understand and relate to. In times like these, you just want to focus your mind on something and not think about what just occurred and the shattering realization that someone close to you is no longer there. And the fact that her mother did recognize this and did allow her to just rest and cry, I thought was a truly touching scene behind closed doors. Of course, they didn't want to do that in front of people. They had to appear strong, but behind closed doors, they did have that shoulder to rely on. I thought it was really touching and really was kind of a nice bow to tie up this episode. It really could have just been Askeladd as well as Thorfinn, and that would have been a good enough episode, but to have that extra layer of just the family realizing what they just lost, knowing that their son is still out there, having that no matter how many years it takes, I will find him, I promise you. There's a lot going on back home, and I'm glad we did get a perspective of that. This episode was just absolutely incredible. The background art continues to blow me away. I love how they detail the forest, and just even when they were burning things alive, it really did feel like there was a realistic detail to just the overall world, and it helps us make us feel as if these characters are part of a living and breathing environment, and it's not just some anime static background. This is a real world, and you really feel the beauty but also the horror within it because of those details. The body reactions, the body language, the voice acting. Thorfinn had to have stole the show in this episode. I loved how he just portrayed rage, but also you kind of understood how serious he was, and it wasn't just a dumb kid. It actually felt as if this was someone who really believed what they were doing, and the more he trained, the more he got better, such as, being able to use throwing knives, or throwing sword in his case, which I have to say was a nice touch. I thought he would have just been a pretty cliche, he was just going to use a sword. To see that he'll probably master also throwing blades, things like that, I think that's a nice touch to help set him apart from a lot of sword-wielding main characters, among his amazing personality, of course. It just felt like this episode did a lot right, and I really don't think I have any complaints about the past 5 episodes. Before the season even started, I knew Vinland Saga didn't have much competition to be my anime of the season, and to no one's surprise, especially myself, it absolutely is. Just everything about this continues to blow me away, and just every episode when I hear that opening kick in, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And then the screams come and I'm so pumped. And then I get into this episode and we can just watch a kid on a boat and it feels just as intense as any battlefield. And that's how you know you have something special. Vinland Saga is bigger than just one character. It's bigger than just one war. It's all about perspective, all these mentalities, and just, it feels like the production quality matches the writing quality so perfectly, one for one, and that's why this is just becoming one of the best anime of this year. Hell, it might even be my favorite anime of the year, depending on how these two cores play out, and obviously, only time will tell, but I'm damn excited for more. Like, honestly, it just feels like this series currently is doing everything right. It has an amazing source material, and Wit Studio is bringing their absolute A+ game, and I think it shows within the quality. Absolutely, fantastic episode, but what did everyone think? Manga readers, how did you enjoy the adaptation? Anime originals like myself, where do you think next week's going to go? Let me know down in that comment section below. If you did enjoy this video though, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.